Yeah. We gotta do this one for hip hop. Always keeping the culture alive. Peace, love, and hip hop for life, everybody. It's DJ Ray B. Rev from the original Breakout Brothers.
The Mellow LC. Greetings.
Yo, we want to welcome y'all to another exciting show. This one is big. We got my man.
Bro, hold on. Before we get started, bro, what is that you got on,
Man,
bro?
go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
What is that, man?
Yo.
What is that? I love that,
this is
man.
the hip hop slogans, man. It's my line. We working on it.
What?
You know, if you want to get more information, just hit me up at DJ _ Revy Rev. That's REVIREV on Instagram. You know, and give you some more information. We doing this. We doing it big.
Well, make sure they got a good look at that, man, because I'm not doing that myself. You know, man. Good Lord. I know we got to get on with the show, but that suit is just
as the book says, the show must go on.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So we're introducing my man. He's from the SAC, my homie, a good friend, a real talented brother. Yo, people, please give it up for my man, Mark Money Green.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I want to thank you, Revy Rev and LC, for having me here today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Welcome to the Lost
It's a
Underground.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you, my brother. Yo,
Absolutely.
I first of all, I want to thank you for being one of the brothers that I came up behind with this whole DJ thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Thank you for what you've done for the whole music business. You know what I mean? And what you continue to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. And our show, The Lost Underground, is about putting a shine on people that need to be shined.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That need for the world to know what they doing.
What they
in the
doing,
game.
get
You know
their
what I mean?
flowers down.
Keeping
Absolutely.
the culture alive.
That's
Absolutely.
what we need.
Yeah,
We definitely need that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So first, let's start back from the beginning, man. I know you're from Hackensack.
Yep.
Talk about what was life like in the early days when you grew up in Hackensack. What was it like? What was the challenges? What was the good things, the bad things? You know what I mean?
Well, growing up here in Hackensack, I pretty much knew what I wanted to do when I was in 8th grade. I remember going to the library looking for books on music. I found this one book. I called it my Bible. It had all the careers you could have in the music industry.
Right.
And I just focused on that book.
Right.
And towards the end of my 8th grade year, I met this guy named Freddie Williams.
Okay.
And Freddie and I had talked about putting a band together. He played
Right.
guitar and I was playing drums.
Okay.
So finally we formed this band. And the first day I went to his house, I was in awe. I walked in the house and the first thing I saw on the wall was gold, platinum records. And I was like, what is this? And then
Right.
as I looked closer,
Yeah.
it said the Jackson 5.
Wow.
I Want You Back, ABC, Stop
Yeah.
the Love You Say.
Yeah.
Come to find out, his uncle was the writer and producer of those songs.
Wow.
His name was Freddie
Oh.
Perry.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So right there, I met my best friend,
Yeah.
Freddie Williams.
right.
So we
Absolutely.
created this band we called the Black Pearl.
Black
with
Pearl.
some other people from Hackensack.
Yes.
And from that point on, we were doing cocktail sips and a lot of different, shows around the neighborhood.
Right.
know,
Right.
So,
Well, where about in Hackensack did you actually stay?
so I grew up on 2nd Street, on the other side of 2nd Street, right by the hospital.
by the hospital.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a couple blocks from Newman Street.
Right.
Right down the street from Central
You
Avenue.
was right in the middle of everything.
I was right there in the hood with
Right.
everybody, and that's
Yeah.
kind of who I hung out with.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
That's
So, if you want me to continue,
Oh,
so
go
from
ahead.
that point, we were doing different shows for 2 years. I made it to high school. By the time I got to 10th grade, the funk era started dying out. And this new
Right.
thing called the the disco era started coming about.
Right.
So the shows got smaller and less,
Mhm.
and eventually the group disbanded, and that was the end of the band.
Right.
But what happened was I had all the equipment because we used to rehearse at my house.
Oh, okay.
So I had these big 10-inch, these two PV speakers, and they
Right.
had 10-inch speakers in each cabinet,
Right,
four
right,
10-inch in each.
Right.
So I had these speakers, and then one day I just sat there and I had a turntable. I borrowed my other friend's turntable, and I spent days and nights just learning how to mix.
Right.
Around what year? Around what year was this?
This was 1976.
Okay. Yeah.
1976.
Right. So it was definitely, like you said, at that time was like the club disco thing was going on.
Yes.
And like you said, the funk thing was,
fading out, know.
Yeah.
Even the attire, the dances we were doing, the hustle, the bump, the robot, all that stuff was becoming the new wave of music.
Right.
Now, at that time, you didn't hear anything that you didn't hear the word hip hop when you started.
No, not at that time.
Okay.
Although, as we both know, it started in '73 in the Bronx, but we didn't hear anything about that on this side of the waters.
Okay.
It wasn't until once I was able to master the mixing, because see, what people don't understand. Back then, when we had the mixers, and I still have mine, you didn't have the crossfade where you could hear two records at one time.
Right.
You could only hear one record.
And
you had to match the beat, beat, and then you just slide that level over.
Absolutely.
Because you had to master that.
Yeah.
It was later on when you were able to hear both of the beats playing at the same time.
Right.
So you had to really master that feel.
Right.
So during that time, I got up and I started doing my first gig was at Hackensack High School.
Okay.
It was one of the games. After the games, I rocked the party.
Right.
Before I knew it, everybody started calling me, wanting me to do the football games and after parties and everything.
Right.
I was able to build up that time frame and the name, and then I brought in another friend of mine, David Hurd, a.k.a. Rock Bottom.
Right.
Yeah, so shout out to Dave. Yeah,
shout out to Dave. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Good brother.
Big Dave. So so Dave and I would practice that whole, passing the records, and I would let him spend some time, and I would spend. So then we started doing the high school proms and the high school senior parties and everything. And then one day I started doing parties in Hackensack and in Patterson and then Inglewood. And one day a promoter came to me. He said, "Listen, I want to see if you want to be in the battle of the DJs in the Bronx."
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Right.
Didn't know anything about the Bronx and all of that,
Right.
But I was down to check it out.
Right. Definitely.
So that one night, Rock Bottom, he couldn't make it.
Okay.
And I was by myself. So, I packed up my car, got to the Bronx, and unloaded my stuff. And just as I'm loading and setting everything up, the phone was, come on, let's go. Come on, crank it up,
Right.
So I'm playing my music, I'm DJing, and I got maybe about 50 to 75 people standing around watching me and dancing.
Right.
Next thing I know, I heard this sound and some guys talking over on the other side.
Right.
So everybody just left me. I had about 12 people left there. And I'm just trying to get rid of I want to pack everything. I need to see what's going on over there.
Right.
So I packed up my stuff. I walk over there, and that's when I see these two guys on the mic talking. And I was like, whoa, what is this?
Right.
And no sooner than probably about 30 minutes after they got started, another group started. It was like 3 or 4 guys.
Right.
And they started doing the same thing.
Right.
That was my first time discovering rap.
Rap. Okay.
Didn't know what to call it, but
right.
back then, if those that grew up around my time know that it was a running game where, like, say if you was trying to talk to a girl and, you ain't had no game, she would say, he ain't got no rap.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that's how the whole rap thing came about.
Right.
Because, girls were like, oh, he ain't got no rap, and they want to hear you
right.
finesse them with the words,
Yes, exactly.
The two guys that you saw, do you know who they were?
No, I sure don't.
Okay.
All I know is that night, I ran home and wrote my first rap.
Right.
And then that weekend, I think that's when I hit the Hackensack Rec.
Okay.
And I broke out doing my rap.
Right.
And I became ghetto famous in Hackensack.
Yeah, so you talk about the Uptown Rec.
Yes.
Yes.
Newman Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Not on
right.
Newman Street, on Central Avenue.
Central Ave Rec. Yeah. Wow.
So how did that turn out when you finally did it?
Well, it was great. And I had people always coming up to me, hey, let me hear you sing that song, do that poet thing you was doing.
Right.
And one day, a guy, he was a friend of mine. We were friends in high school. He was a junior, I was a senior. He was a freshman and I was a senior.
Right.
And his name was Guy O'Brien.
Wow.
So Guy used to follow me around, and Guy came up to me one day. He's like, yo, what is that you doing? And I said, well, it's rapping. That's what they're doing in New York.
Right.
And as you all know, from that point on, years later, Guy became
Master G.
Master G of the
Well,
show.
you know, he does, you know, give you your flowers. He does mention you. When he tells that story about starting, you know, how he started,
right?
You know, your name does come up.
And that's big up to him because he didn't have to say it.
Yeah. But that's good. That's good. You know, you got to get credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because, like, you know, I think Nas was the one that says that it's nothing original. Something comes from somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to give credit where credit is due.
And I appreciate that because, you know, even coming up, and, you know, we talking 40, 30, 40, 50 years later, people don't remember.
Right.
But even during that time, I got approached by Jerry Bledsoe from WWRL.
WWRL. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Jerry had a TV show called Soul Alive.
Soul Alive.
Yes. I was the first DJ on that show rapping.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah.
It was.
You know, the problem was I didn't do a great job. I was upset because they made me wear this big top hat like Abraham Lincoln, and I had guest DJ on it.
Wow.
And I got to sit there trying to do my thing with this stupid ass hat on my head. I just couldn't get my groove together.
Right.
So, you know, I guess my first chance of stardom was a failure.
So where did things go after you and Guy O'Brien?
So, you know, from that point on, this was 77. And then by 78, I was still DJing. Now I had my shows had increased to Newark, Patterson, Passaic, Hackensack, Inglewood. I was DJing all the time.
Right.
I was offered a scholarship in Spanish for the summer to go stay with the Spanish-speaking people, and I was like, no, I'm going to continue DJing.
Right.
By that year of 78, I think it was the fall of 78, that's when I decided I was going to college to go to study music.
Right.
But before that, right before I went to school, I finally met Freddie Williams' uncle.
Okay.
Now, his uncle had became a big producer.
Right.
He not only did all the Jackson songs, but he wrote "I Will Survive" for Gloria Dana.
Wow.
"Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel." Ooh. "It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday."
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, he had hits after hits.
Now, was he from Jersey?
He was originally from Inglewood.
Oh, wow.
And he went to Howard University when he met Fonz and Larry Mazzell. And they all formed this group.
Right.
And now from that point on, they got the gig at Motown.
Right.
And he ended up leaving Motown because Barry wanted to call it the corporation.
Yes, he did.
And he didn't want to give them credit for what they were doing.
Yes.
So that's when he left and went to Capitol.
Oh, okay.
But during that time, even when we had our bands, we would call Freddie Perrin and you know, tell him, you know, our dreams of becoming the next Jackson 5.
Right.
He's like, no, you're not there yet, you know.
Right.
And eventually his mother got murdered in Inglewood.
Wow.
She got murdered by some guy from Inglewood, and he came here for the funeral. So that was my first time meeting him.
Right.
And when I was talking to him, I said, you know, Freddie, I want to be this DJ. You know, I want to be like Hank Spann. You know, Hank Spann had those words, hi, this is Hank Spann. I'm more groovy than a 5-cent movie where you get your popcorn and candy free.
Right.
You know, and I said, that's what I want to do.
Yes.
He said, no, Mark, no. You don't want to play the music. You want to make the music. He said, go to school, study music, and you make the music.
Right.
And I took his advice, and that's what I did. I went straight to school.
Right. All right. Yeah. Great advice, man.
Definitely, because it paid off later on.
Right. So now you went away.
So I'm in school, you know, of course, I got my DJ equipment. I'm DJing not only one club, but I got 3 clubs.
Wow.
And of course, my first year there, I didn't know how to schedule myself. So I scheduled all morning classes. Never made any of them. To the point that I was on probation.
Oh, wow.
I was about to get kicked out of school because you got to realize I'm DJing Thursday night. I ain't going to Friday class.
Right.
I'm DJing Sunday night. I ain't going to Monday class.
Wow.
And I was just having a ball DJing until that fatal day happened when my apartment got robbed.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was Thanksgiving break. I went home. When I came back, my apartment was totally empty. They took not only my DJ equipment, my records, my drum set, my keyboard, my saxophone. They took the pictures off the wall. They took all my clothes, including my
They
underwear.
must have walked in
Get
with
out of here.
They must have backed the trailer.
They had to back the trailer.
Somebody had to let them know.
Yeah, they must have let them know.
That was an inside job.
And,
right.
And, you know, I think also because I had a first floor apartment.
Okay.
And people used to walk in the back where was a railroad track, but you could, if you left your curtains open, you could see what's
going on over there. Now you told me you went to Virginia State, so was this in the Burg?
This was in the Burg, yes.
Virginia State,
yes.
Petersburg, Virginia.
That's right. Shout out to Petersburg.
Shout out to Petersburg. Always the home of Love Jones, Reverend Rev.
Yeah, my old home.
Yeah,
yeah.
But you know, it didn't stop me from doing what I had to do. Of course, my parents were not going to give me the money for the records. They weren't going to buy me another turntable because I was already, you know, by default flunk out of school.
Right.
So the next thing I did was I started working with a promoter.
Okay.
And this guy named Woodstock, he started hiring me to be the roadie, to set up the equipment, to run the errands. And at that point, I was doing a lot of shows. And one of the people that constantly came through there was Melba Moore and Phyllis Hyman.
Wow.
So once we did that show and I got to know them, I expressed to them my desires of wanting to be in the music business.
Right.
And both of them gave me their phone numbers and said, here, call me when you get out of school.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I got out of school, first thing I wanted to do was get a job working at Sugar Hill.
Okay.
I sat there hours, days after days.
Wow.
I was determined to get in there because, you know, trying to see Mr. Robinson.
Right.
By this time, you got to realize Sugar Hill Records, we talking 1979, had already started taking off.
Right.
And I think it was the year 1980 when I was trying to get the internship.
Okay.
I would sit in that lobby day after day. Finally, the following week, I just brought my lunch. I said, I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to sit here from 9 to 5 o'clock till I see Mr. Robinson.
Right.
Did you eventually, did that happen?
Yeah, you know what happened was he got tired of, you know, I guess the secretary said, oh, Mark is here to see you. He didn't know me. And then finally he got tired of, you know, every time they called him, I would be there. And I'd sit there the whole day. And then one day, because he would come out the office, he would come behind the door to see who's in the lobby that he had to speak with.
Right.
And I would see Spoonie G there. I would see all these, everybody that wanted to be a rapper was coming to Sugar Hill because of the Sugar Hill gang.
Right.
And finally he said to me, what do you want? And I told him I want to be in jail. He said, all right, come on upstairs, come upstairs.
Right.
So I go upstairs, we're sitting there, he asked me like 4 questions. Do you know the Bronx? Yes. Do you know Harlem? Do you have a car? Can you work night and day? And when I said yes to all of them, he said, you're hired. You start tomorrow.
Wow. So that paid off, that being consistent, being, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
So what were some of your, once you got hired?
My duties?
Yeah, what are the duties?
Well, you know, my first duty was I had to go to Harlem and the Bronx and go to this thing called, they were called warehouses or one-stops.
Right.
The one-stops back in the day is where once you had your record pressed up, you sent it to this warehouse called a one-stop.
Okay.
And then all the record stores would call and say, hey, you have that new Sugar Hill record? Yeah, we have it. And they would ship them the money and they would ship them the records.
Right.
Or they would send somebody up to pick up the records.
Right.
Okay.
So my job was to dump these records at all the one-stops and get the check and bring it back.
Okay.
That's what I did during the day. And the evening I worked with this engineer named Billy Jones.
Okay,
He was the engineer for Sugar Hill Records, which was also called All Platinum.
All Platinum,
first started.
Yes.
Billy Jones.
Yes.
And, you know, I worked as an intern. I just shadowed Billy, and day after day we would be in there, and everybody was coming in there to record. But like any other recording studios, not everybody recorded right there.
Right.
Sometimes they recorded and we fixed it in the mix.
Oh, okay.
Or sometimes, like when Tito Pointier came there one time to record with the Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know if you remember that record. But he didn't. The band wasn't set up. He had the vocals, he had the music, and he came in, did his thing on the timbales and drums, and he was out.
Wow.
You know, because in our mind, we think, you got to have the whole band.
Right.
Drummers got to be set up, and the guitar, but it's not. It wasn't like that.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how did you feel, later on about the whole, demise of Sugar Hill and all the things that happened,
But and people have to realize that when we were coming up, this hip hop thing or this rap thing, it was just something we did for fun.
Right. Okay,
Nobody ever thought about making a record.
Absolutely.
Nobody thought about making any money from it. It was just like playing the dozens. You just sat there and you talked your shit, and that was that.
And that was that. That's right.
And the thing was, by the time the Sugar Hill Records thing started happening, you had all the hip hop artists coming there trying to make a record,
Right.
And during this time, everything was still new.
Right.
Because although they trying to make the record, the first record that came out was The Rapper's Delight. And as we know, radio didn't want to play that type of music.
Right.
Even when I was on the road with the artists, working with the Boogie Boys and some of the other rap artists, they hated us.
Right.
We could play for Morris Day, the Cameo, and we coming in there with turntables and records, and they looking at us like, we got a whole band, and you guys, this is what y'all got.
Right.
So that was a crazy time.
Yeah. I do recall back in the day how musicians felt about the whole hip-hop thing. You know what I mean? It felt like it wasn't.
We weren't legit.
It wasn't legit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of people said some people called it stealing. I'm going to just be honest.
Right.
People, it wasn't, but some people thought it was stealing because, you took a song and you sampled it or you did what you did.
Played it over.
You played it over.
Right.
But people didn't write. One thing I did say, and maybe you'll agree, people don't realize that these songs had stood their time, but then they turned around and became popular all over again for a new generation.
Right. A new generation.
A generation.
So they got like they got like a rebirth.
A rebirth.
Right.
Exactly. It was a rebirth of it.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at it negative, look at it saying, well, you know what, my song had its time, but then here we go again. My song is already popular again.
Right.
To a new generation that never even knew it.
Right.
But what was crazy was, even when I went to school, rap was still only the tri-state area.
True.
Nobody really knew. Everybody from New York was rapping and DJing.
Right.
And that's pretty much who ran the clubs.
Right.
It wasn't like, you go to California and they knew what was going on.
Right.
It wasn't until 1985 I was managing a group called the Boogie Boys.
Right.
Yes.
Fly Girl.
And they were like one of the first groups signed to a major art label. We were signed to Capitol.
Capitol, yes.
And during that time, we would do a lot of roller skating rings, and small clubs.
Right.
We even, when I was on the road with them, we even did a show in the barn.
That's funny.
That's
crazy.
Oh my goodness.
But the thing is, what people don't understand is hip hop changed the way we do business. We do fashion business. They just changed the way we do everything in the world.
Everything.
Right.
And the funny thing is, back in the day, you got paid after the show. You didn't get paid before the show like you are now. But hip hop changed that.
That's right.
See, in the beginning, you got everybody didn't get paid.
Right.
That's right.
Because you have to realize back in the early 80s, it was the cocaine era, the drug era. And most of the promoters were either drug dealers, con artists, hustlers, pimps, pushers, you name it.
That's right.
So they would pay the first guy to go on, and they made sure the headliner got paid. Then they would disappear.
That's right. That's right.
You go looking for your money. Where's Joe the promoter? Oh, he left the building. Now, we didn't have cell phones back then. You didn't have beepers. We had to find a payphone and try to find this dude.
He in the next state now.
That's right.
So most of the people got caught holding an empty bag.
That's right.
But see, me, I peeped the whole game.
Mhm.
So I made sure that I told the Boogie Boys, I said, listen, we're going to always open the show. 'Cause that way I would guarantee my money.
Right.
Because I knew. Because I would talk to my friends and say, yo, you get your money. Nah, man, that guy, yeah, that guy, he was like, I didn't get my money. But I made sure I got my money.
Right.
So one day we got into the show, and I used to always tell the guys, I was, listen, do not hit that stage until I tell you I got the money.
Right.
And one day they hit the stage, and I didn't have the money. I went off on them. And that's when Joe Malloy, a.k.a. Romeo JD,
Right.
said, okay, Mark Money Green.
Oh,
And that's how my name
that's how
came
you
about,
did.
to
That's
Mark
how
Money
we got Mark
Green.
Money Green. Okay.
Now the story's out.
Yeah.
That's
He
how
said,
the
I'm tired of you rapping and raving about this daggone money.
Right.
And from that point, my name just stuck.
That's buddy.
But the crazy thing is, even as, and I talk about this in my book, The Show Must Go On.
Yes.
There was one day we were in Dayton, Ohio, and I went to get my money.
Right.
And the promoter said, nah, I ain't paying you, go on. I said, no, that's not how I do business. You're supposed to pay me first.
Right.
He said, nah, I ain't paying you. I said, well, I ain't going on. He said, all right, well, come on in the back. I'll give you your money. As soon as I walked back, they reached on his shirt, pulled out a 357 Magnum, put it to my head. He said, I don't give a F if you from New York. You in Dayton, Ohio now, nigga.
Wow.
And the running joke I said in my book, it's like, it ain't where you from, it's where you at.
Where you at.
You know?
Right.
Everybody want to claim I'm from Brooklyn, Bronx,
yeah,
Harlem.
Yeah.
But when you in another state or country,
Exactly.
it don't matter.
It don't matter. For
Right.
real.
You
You're
in
not
their
that tough
hometown.
guy
Yeah,
over there.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
right. You're not that
And
tough
that
guy.
seemed to be the running factor of wherever we went. Because once
Right.
we hit the tour, I went from the East Coast. I think I've been to like 47 states
Wow.
in total.
Wow.
But one thing I did realize is like coming up in the 80s, the West Coast really embraced hip hop almost more than New York did.
Wow.
And people don't understand, like they just took in that whole, they love this hip hop thing.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're playing here, small clubs and roller skating. When we went to the West Coast, we playing arenas and theaters.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
they loved hip hop.
Wow.
That's why if you look now, you see that a lot of records they sell out there.
Yes,
The music is selling
Oh, yeah,
big and fast out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing that they did, they will do, they pull together
Yes.
with each other. You know,
Right.
New York, you know, God bless us, we get to the point where we want to get it so bad, you're going to leave the other man behind.
Right.
You know, but West Coast, if there's a cat behind you, you're going to bring him up.
Right.
He going to get it. He going to bring
Right.
another cat, and they stick together.
Right,
And you
right.
find out that the South does that as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
South Atlanta, all that,
Sure.
they do that as well. God bless them. They look out for that cat behind them.
Right.
You know, they think about that cat, and that's why you see them pull together the way they do,
Right.
especially in hip hop.
And if you look back in the day, back then we were making $1,500 a show,
Right.
If you yeah,
and $3,500 if you had 2 records.
if you had
Right,
2
right.
records,
That was the big money back
Right,
then.
right.
But
right.
you know, I kind of try to look back at, because you know it's hard to conceive $1,500.
Yeah.
right.
You know, but when I look back at the concert tickets, were only like $7.
Yeah. So yeah.
Right,
So that's the
right,
difference. Because
right.
now it's crazy. Tickets for a show
Yeah.
is bananas now.
The
Yeah.
average car, I think back
Right.
then was like 16,000.
That's right.
Right.
Well, who would you say was the what was the craziest tour that you might have been on? Because you mentioned that you were a road manager. What would you say is the craziest tour that you've ever been on?
Well,
Who was the
I'm a-
artist?
I'd say, you know, when I started off, we were doing isolated dates. The first real tour that we did in hip hop was with the Swatch Watch tour with the Fat Boys.
Okay.
And
Okay,
Fat Boys was
okay.
hotter than chicken grease out here.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
right,
I mean, there
right.
was nobody bigger than the Fat Boys. They had
Right.
movies, they had commercials.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then the Swatch Watch ended up turning into the Fresh Fest.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, the Michael Molden, who's Jermaine's father,
Right.
and Ricky, who had the circus, the hip, what is the
Oh
Black Circus?
yeah. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
They were the promoters of all the Fresh Fest shows back then.
Okay,
Ricky
okay.
Walters, yeah.
Right.
And back then, that was like the first time I really toured with hip hop, like a professional tour where you went from city to city to city.
Right.
You know, that was one of the great tours I was on, along with Drew Hill.
Right.
And then, as we were talking earlier, you know, as I started building my name as a road manager and tour manager, everybody started coming at me.
Right.
Really?
And one day I was working with DMX,
Right.
my first time going on the road with him.
Right.
And
Yo,
Yeah.
rest in
Rest
peace,
in
my
peace,
dude. Rest in power,
yes,
my
yes,
dude.
Yes, yes.
We
they
miss
said
you.
to me, I said, you know, we need you to go out here to handle the show in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I said, okay. As soon as we got there and we got to the venue, I was escorted into a room by 4 thugs. They told me I wasn't leaving until I paid them the money that DMX owed them from another show.
Wow.
And I won't tell you how it ended. You
Right.
got to read the book.
Okay.
Right.
Definitely.
There's so many crazy, you know, times when we look back at hip hop and where we came from and where we are now. Because later on, as I became an agent, they changed the game. They was like, "Listen, you got the deposit, right, Rev? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you take your commission and you send me my money." And I'm
Right.
like, "But wait a minute, you haven't performed yet. They don't care."
Wow.
And when they started demanding that,
Yeah.
everybody had to follow suit because they were like, "We're not doing the show unless we get our
Yeah.
money."
Oh,
Right,
wow.
right.
So back in the day, people, as an agent, we had the money. We kept it in the escrow.
Right.
And once the promoter said, okay, the show was good and the artist, everything was good, then you gave the artist the money.
Their money,
Right.
Hip hop changed the way we did that. I was like, nope, I ain't going to give me my money first.
Wow.
And it made it crazy because as agents, we were responsible for that money.
Right.
You know, I'm
Right.
giving you your money. I don't even know if you're going to show up, man.
Exactly.
Right,
You know, and eventually we had to do the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I say in the book, I talk about you got to be a paper gangster.
Right.
You know, knowing the paperwork, knowing contracts, knowing how to deal with these situations.
Right.
If not, you're gonna lose.
Right.
And being a paper gangster was like you had to come up with language or an addendum to the contract to say, you know, Rev, I'm gonna give you this money, but I gotta tell the promoter, LC, listen, you gave me the money, but Rev isn't gonna do the show until he gets his money.
Right.
But you gotta sign this paper saying it's okay for me to give
It's
him the
okay
money.
for me to do that. Right.
And most of the time, LC, you ain't gonna sign that paper.
Right.
So
Right,
you know,
brother, right.
and it was like you waiting for him to sign because now the artist he wants his money. The
Right.
promoter don't want to sign the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
He still want to hold you accountable for. But for me, what I did was I incorporated that language in the contract.
Okay.
And as we know, most people don't read the contracts.
Right.
They just sign or they don't read the small print.
Right.
So I was protected.
Right.
Yeah.
Smart. Now, I just want to trickle back a little bit. Now, I know you say, you started off with Sugar Hill.
Right.
But it was some other record companies that you also work with,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
What was some other?
I work with EMI, Capitol. I work with Queen Latifah at Flavor Unit.
Right.
I worked at Independent for I can't even think of the record label, but I did a lot of independent work for different labels as well.
Right. Big.
Did you find that it was when you did a lot of the independent, was a lot of the pressure taken off you with the independents more than the more
labels.
the
No,
more
the labels was a straight up solid job with a check.
Right.
I ain't had to do nothing to make things happen.
Right,
Independent,
okay.
you got to come up with certain kind of creative ways to get that record played on the radio.
Right.
Whether you walking in there with a nice bag with you,
Right.
or your favorite products
Right.
to
Yeah.
entertain the
But see, a lot-
situation.
that's the thing. A lot of people, like, okay, back in the day, they used to frown on people. They I guess they called it payola.
Right.
You know, a lot of people was like, nah, I'm not doing this. And you knew that you were getting a little something under the table to play that record.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's not just that, but it's the way the world works. We
Right,
don't
that's
know
the
that.
way it works.
Right,
That's the way it
exactly,
was.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
see that happening now in the politics in New York.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Everybody getting something under the table,
Right.
some
Absolutely.
kind of way,
Yeah.
whether it's a legit or not.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know.
That's
So
the
yeah,
way
that
it
whole
was.
that whole game is a whole different game because you're dealing with people's reputations.
Right.
You're dealing with the FCC.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with all kinds of things that's involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know?
Man. So there's so many stories you got in this book, man.
Yeah.
So many. So we could just, if you want, just give a little taste of, you know.
Well, I'll throw a couple things out. You know, in 1985, I decided I wanted to be an agent after being on the road with hip hop, and I say 1986, I decided to be an agent. I was on the road in '85 with the different hip hop acts, and I saw how the agents work. And at that time, I wanted that big office in Manhattan on Broadway, wearing a suit and tie, briefcase full of money,
briefcase,
the Gators and the diamond rings and stuff, you know. And I saw that with the agents, so I decided I wanted to be an agent, and I wanted to be the best hip hop agent. So I knew everybody from being out on the road with them, whether we did tours or whatever we did. So when I announced that I was going to be an agent, everybody came to me. I signed Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff, aka Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff.
Right. That's
Salt and
big.
Pepper.
Wow.
Kid and Play.
Wow.
The Skinny Boys.
Skinny Boy.
Who else was it? Roxanne Shante.
Okay.
Biz Markie.
Yeah, Biz. My boy.
Yeah. And, you know, because I knew Tyrone, Fly Ty, on the
Fly
road.
Ty.
Me and Vincent Davis, he had Joe Ski Love, so I knew him.
Okay.
A lot of these guys, I came up with Red Alert, so Sparky D was also somebody I was working with. So all of these guys, we all knew each other from the road, so it was easy for them to come to me knowing that I knew hip-hop, and they would allow me to book their acts. You know, so I'm celebrating this past year, 25 years of having my own business, but almost 40 years of booking hip hop since 1985.
Yeah, that's big. That's
Congratulations,
big.
man.
Thank you.
Shit. 40 years in this business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, them
I
gray
know that's
hairs.
a lot of gray hairs.
Yeah, a lot of gray hairs.
Gray hairs.
A lot of years.
A lot of crazy
I'm telling
stories.
you.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, I do want people to understand, like my book, I'm telling these stories about hip hop, the early days of hip hop. I'm talking about a lot of the artists I work with: Grandmaster Flash, The Furious Five, Guru, Aaliyah, Timbaland, Missy Elliott, Usher, and all these people. I talk about the stories that you listening to now in this book.
Right.
And,
Definitely.
And the thing is, it's not a tell-all, but it's telling you how these situations not only put me in danger, but it's the element of hip hop and how things happened back in the day.
Right. Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Right.
So yes, you can learn. You can learn from reading this, man, and we thank you, man, for bringing this to the world, man. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That experience, paid off for you.
Yeah, it definitely paid off. And you know, I've been fortunate to just constantly reinvent myself. I had the opportunity to work for Prince and Usher and all these other Chris Webber, the basketball player.
Yes.
And I had an opportunity to work with a lot of major celebrities. Now I've moved on to a lot of actors where I'm working with Derek Luke, Lynn Whitfield, Pam Grier. I just finished working with Jim Brown before he passed, Luke Gossett before he passed, and Richard Roundtree before he passed. And it's been a blessing. I give all thanks to God for allowing me to continue to still be in the game.
Right.
Because as you know, this is a young man's game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you here today, going tomorrow.
And
unless you have become a Puffy or Jay-Z, your career is
absolutely
up or down. You may make it or you may not.
Absolutely.
So to maintain that status for all these years, that's a blessing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's truly a blessing, man.
So what's in the near future for Mark Money?
Mark Money Green. So right now I'm going to continue booking shows under my company, Celebrity Talent Agency. I'm also the chairman of Artist Relationship for the Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx. The original. Open in 2026.
Right. 2026.
Right. 2026.
So, that's been a blessing. It also gave me an opportunity to work with artists I hadn't worked with in the past, like Yo-Yo and Ice Cube and a whole bunch of other people. Because being in that position, I am in charge of all the artists that come through the museum.
Oh, that's what's up.
So,
that's a blessing.
I'm happy to have that. That title, and continue doing hip hop.
Right. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Yeah.
The museum. Can you talk a little bit more about it? I mean,
well, the museum is still under development, and it's going to be the museum because right now we're collecting artifacts, and we got we got everything from Snoop's bike
Mm-hmm.
to what is his name? Eazy-E's tour jacket, and we got all kind of artifacts and,
Right.
and everything you can think of, and we've collected all these artifacts from different people all over the world.
Right. Right.
And
right.
you know, I'm telling anybody, if you do have any artifacts that you want to submit for the museum, you can reach out to me
Right.
or Rev, and we'll make sure that happens. But
that's
the
for
great thing
sure.
about this museum, not only is it going to bring and generate a lot of income for the Bronx, but people will come from all over the world to see
Yeah.
Exactly.
the Hip Hop
Exactly.
Museum, which has everything from my Fresh jacket to
Right.
to you name it. And these are all the
right.
articles that we want to see.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
we got posters, we got flyers, we got people's
Right.
turntables, we got
That's what I
Bismarcky
was going to
shoes,
ask. Yes.
Right.
we got this
Yes.
one's gold chain, we got this
Yes.
one's hat,
Right.
Yeah.
this one's jacket. So
Right.
it's going to be an incredible experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's only right for it to be in the Bronx too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't
Yeah.
fight that.
Now there
Yeah,
are,
for being wrong.
and not to discredit anybody, there are museums popping up in Seattle, Washington D.C., Virginia,
But there's never
Atlanta, but
nothing. There's nothing
where it start in the Bronx.
in the
Right.
Bronx.
And
You know, you
everybody,
can't take from them.
this museum is, I
Absolutely.
forgot how many square feet it is, but I'd say it's probably half the size of the one at the African American Museum in D.C.
Oh wow.
It's
Wow. That's
huge.
big.
Wow.
That's
It's
big.
really big, yes.
Yeah.
And they have affordable housing on top of the museum
wow.
as well.
Yes.
And but the museum, the space is ridiculous.
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's one thing that we always say, you know, we always talk about that even though, you know, they want to say, well, how hip hop started in the Bronx and that's where it, you know, began, but not realizing that what was going on, we were right there in that backyard.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
Because
right.
once you
Right.
cross that George Washington, you can say anywhere else around, but when you cross the George Washington Bridge, you come from the Cross Bronx,
Right.
things like that. When you come across that bridge, what are you touching?
Yeah.
You're touching right here.
That's right.
You're touching Teaneck, Inglewood, Hackensack,
Right.
going on
Madison,
Portland.
Jersey
So
City, yeah.
we got that hit
Right.
right behind
Yeah.
the Bronx.
We're only 4 miles from Harlem and 9 miles from the Bronx.
9
Right,
miles from the
right,
Bronx.
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
We're
so,
right
so
here.
in that
Yeah.
mix, Jersey, you know,
Yes.
these three towns are in that mix.
And a lot of people that we grew up with came from New York,
Right,
right?
right,
Their
yeah,
families moved
exactly.
here
Yeah,
Exactly.
yes,
for better
yes, they
living,
did.
and
Right.
we
Yes,
grew
they
up with them.
did.
So that
Right.
element has
Yes, they
always
did.
been there.
True.
That's
true,
right.
True.
That's
true.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
We talked about it on I think our first episode, the connection between New York
Right.
and Hackensack, and you got Leon's. That was right there on Central Ave.
Right.
Absolutely.
Who was a co-owner of Smalls.
Small.
And-
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so he had all the acts that was at Smalls Paradise in New York. They were coming
Here.
to Hackensack. So
Oh,
you had
wow. That's right.
what's the name? Red Fox and all those guys that
Wow.
was there. They was
Shucky.
coming
Crazy.
Shucky
right
Green,
there.
Flappy White.
all of them was
these
coming right there.
men
Hackensack,
coming,
right at Little Leon.
Right.
Little
Yeah,
Leon.
You know what I mean?
Leon's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
yeah. So
That's
that-
right.
that's that connection that was probably in the late 60s, you know, or
Right,
whatever.
right.
You know what I mean? And so it was only right that once hip hop came out, you know what I mean? You know, Jersey was still involved.
Right.
Jersey was still
And
in.
We
Flash
still
had
had the Jimi Hendrix, the Isley Brothers.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
King.
yes, right here,
Us-
right in
Yeah,
Teaneck.
all
Right,
those.
yeah,
Ain't you
right
that?
here, yeah,
Right
in this
here.
area, yeah.
And you mentioned Flash. Flash, even before the Sugar Hill record thing and all that, he was here with
Right.
us. You
Right.
know,
Right.
he had been to different parties and things.
Mhm.
He come to play with a group that we had going around along with called Sound on Sound.
Right.
You
They
know,
came
shout
up
out to
right
Sound
after.
on
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sound.
came up right after you. Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
He
yeah.
would come through and play with them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So he had been here before the records.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I know you said you worked with Flash back in the day. I remember when you was working with Flash back in the day, and it was a guy that was bringing Flash out here to do parties. Was a guy named Man Diplight.
Man,
Oh,
Dip.
for real?
yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
That's
Wow.
right.
yeah. He
Right.
I think he actually, I don't know for sure, but I think he was related to one of the guys from the Crash Crew.
Okay.
He was.
But he was one of the guys
Oh,
that was
what's his
booking a
brother?
lot of the shows, bringing a
brother.
lot of the acts.
Sure.
Especially with was Flash.
It was
you know?
Flash,
Yeah,
definitely.
And I want to shout out to Sound on Sound.
Sound on Sound.
AJ Savage was also
Yes,
on
Yes,
DJ.
yes, we talk about him.
We
I
talk
bought
about
my
him.
first speakers from AJ.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So you do remember Billy Atkins?
Billy,
Yeah, of course.
Billy,
Yeah.
Shout out to Billy Atkins.
Billy
He was the
Atkins.
beginning.
Yeah.
He was probably our what they call Herc in the Bronx.
Right.
He was Herc over
Yes.
here.
Right,
You know,
right,
you got
right.
to give
Crazy
that up
thing
to
is,
him.
I ended up working with Bill when he was in Richmond.
He was in Richmond.
Wow,
He was on the
wow.
station,
Yeah.
I brought Guru there and a few other acts there.
Wow.
That we
Yeah,
deal with.
wow.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
he was our Herc.
Yeah,
over here.
And also from Hackensack, I know you did some work with JT from
Yes,
Corner Gang.
yeah, JT. When I was young, I used to follow JT around. He had a group called Filet of Soul.
Relay of Soul,
Yes, I used to go
right.
to
Give
the
it up
Soap
for them.
Factory.
Yes,
Yeah.
And all
yes.
those places. I would
Yeah.
just follow him because I was just like in awe with his singing group.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
And, it wasn't until he left
Mhm.
Cool
Right.
and the
Right.
gang, he started his own label. And at
Right.
that time, I was putting labels together for different artists.
Right.
Right.
And so I did his label. I ended up working for Prince, putting the distribution company together for Prince.
Wow.
I did the label for Chris Webber.
Yeah.
So it was a bunch of people because, back then, Master P had created the blueprint
Right.
of doing independent labels.
Right,
right.
And everybody wanted to become independent at one
Right.
time.
That's
True,
right.
true,
That's
true.
right.
And not only that, and I didn't mention this, but I did talk about it in the book, I got to deal with Warner Brothers. My first artist I signed was Tina Marie.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big.
Is
big.
But
that
I made the
if-
big mistake of talking about it and promoting it. And before we finished the album, Cash Money came,
Oh.
That's
offered her all this money.
Right, and they
Yeah.
put
The song
her
Still
right.
in
She
Love,
signed.
or-
She signed with them. Still in
And
love with
she
them.
came to me and she wanted to release, and she was my favorite artist. We had became more than just business. We
Absolutely.
became friends.
Right. Right.
And I talk about this in my book too.
Mm.
Don't let your emotional feelings dictate your business sense.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
And I made that mistake by,
Right.
granting her the release,
Mhm.
but at the end I didn't get nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Motown had already released her.
Yeah, she was gone from Motown for a while, but
For a while.
she was active in the concert, in the
Absolutely.
concert
Right. Right.
series, just doing shows. So
Right.
she was like the OJs because I had the OJs, Melba Moore, J.T. Taylor, and Tina Marie were my first four groups that I had for my distribution deal with Warner Brothers.
Is that big? Is that
That's
big?
big, yo. That is big.
Wow.
And
I
unfortunately,
mean, the OJs is big enough.
yeah.
My
Well,
God.
unfortunately, after I made that mistake of letting Tina Marie go, that
Right.
kind of ended my relationship with Warner Brothers.
Wow.
Because,
Really.
But you learn from your mistakes.
You learn from your
You
mistakes.
learn. You learn.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is what I like about you, Mark, is you're humble.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But as Master G said in the book, you're a doer.
Yes.
So you keep it going. You know what I mean? If one thing don't work out, you switch off
You
and go
move
to the
to
next and you
another
keep it
thing.
moving, man.
Yeah.
That's why I dig and respect about you, bro. You know
I
what mean?
appreciate that.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
praises to God. I had to keep reinventing myself to
Right.
stay in this business.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
A lot of my friends now that I came up with, they're doing real estate, they're doing retail, they're doing things they don't want to do.
Okay.
Right.
But you have to sacrifice. And in the
That's
book,
right.
it wasn't easy for me. I got fired many times.
Mm.
And there were times where I didn't know where my next check was going to come.
Wow.
There were times I was the guy out in the middle of the street 2 or 3 in the morning putting up posters up and down Harlem in Manhattan.
Wow.
I had to rent my house out to have some people stay there so I didn't
Wow.
lose my house.
Right.
But I was determined to stay
make
in
it
this
happen.
business and
Yes.
determined to keep things going.
Absolutely.
And at
Right.
that time, you have to sacrifice.
Right.
Wow,
And see,
wow.
that's the thing. A lot of people don't see the next person's grind.
That's
Right,
true.
that's
You know
it.
what I mean? A lot of people don't see that, man. And that's good that you're able to talk about it and you can show the world
Absolutely.
what you've been through
Yes.
and how God has kept you to
Absolutely.
keep doing it, man.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
That's right.
I mean, it's crazy when you look back over the times of everything that's happened. And as we know, when we got into the record business, we concentrated on that one job, whether you was A&R, whether
Right.
you were publishing, whether you were doing promotions. that's all you concentrate.
Right.
But I decided I was going to be a jack of all trades.
Right.
I was
Nothing
when
wrong
I
with
got
that.
that book when I was in 8th grade. I said I like A&R, I like promotions, I like marketing, I like and I decided I was going to learn everything, and I did,
and it paid off.
and it paid off.
Right. Right.
Who else was part of the who helped do the make the creation of the book?
Yes, I want to shout out to Erica Williams.
Yeah.
Erica and Erica is from Inglewood.
Okay.
And she had a lot of books that she would write.
Yes.
I call them the ghetto novels.
I
one
know.
of her books she did about the James Bond group.
Oh yeah, about the crew. Yeah.
So I admired her work. So when I decided to do this book, I didn't know anything about how to create or where to get started.
Right.
So I called Erica, and we sat down and we talked. But the one thing good about Erica, she spoke my language. What I say about that is like, I would tell her the story, and I would tell her like how I speak.
Right.
But she spoke the same way. So it wasn't a lot of like, oh, you got to change this word.
Right.
She I like, oh yeah, that's what I would say.
Right.
Every now and then they'd be like, nah, that sounds too much like a female would say that. I'm not. That's not how I would speak. You know?
Right.
But overall, I give her a shout out because she helped put this together.
Right.
There are a few things that she doesn't realize, but she saved me because I would have said the wrong way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But she came up and came up with the right words to make it sound correct.
Oh man,
Okay.
yeah. Well, shout out to
Shout out to
Eric.
Eric. Shout out to Eric. For real.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. Yo. It's just it's a beautiful thing to see somebody that
right,
reach that level, man, and to keep doing it and making it happen, man, and to keep the culture alive. That's our big thing is about keeping the culture alive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So thank you.
I don't mean to talk too much, but I do want to just mention one other thing.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
I was managing Flash for over 10 years,
Wow.
back and forth. I was able to publish his first book.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing for me was negotiating the movie The Get Down.
Oh,
Everybody saw the movie on
yeah.
Netflix.
Yo,
and,
I got to give you for that.
That was a great movie.
I was,
I had no idea who this guy was. He was calling me because I used to get all those calls like,
Right.
"Oh, we want Flash to do a biography. We want him to do a video. We want him to do this."
Right.
And this guy talked about he wanted News Flash to do a movie,
Right.
and the movie was of the era of the 70s.
Right.
It wasn't directly his story, but
Right.
it was the era of how
the
the
70s.
scope changed into hip hop.
Right,
That whole era.
Right.
And when we talked, and finally I got to meet this guy, I didn't realize who he was.
Mhm.
Come to find out, he did the Elvis movie recently. He
okay.
did Mulu. What is it? I can't even think of the name. But he did the Elvis movie. He did I can't think of the damn movies. But his name is Boz Luhrmann.
Okay.
And he's a well-known movie director and producer in Hollywood. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's big. That's
So
big.
that was an experience for me negotiating a
Right.
movie deal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. That's dope, man. So you had your hands in a little bit of everything.
Yes, I've been blessed. Yeah.
That's great.
That was it, man.
Yeah, man.
We are definitely honored, and we're thankful that you took the time out to come and hang out with us, and tell your story,
Yes.
and tell us about all the people that you have encountered with.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because it's
Exactly.
personally for us, it's personally to give you your flowers.
Yes.
I appreciate
Indeed.
that.
We have to
Yeah.
give you your flowers, and we just want you to keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing. Don't stop, because you're going to encounter. There's one thing you did say earlier in one, and I guess I do see it. You kind of do resemble Christopher Willis. I keep looking. I said he told a story, and he said, so I said they called him Christopher Willis. Well, when you look at it, if you look long enough, you do look like Christopher
Well,
Willis.
if I had the hair and this freckles and get rid of the gray, maybe.
All right, so one last thing, I guess, being that you was around for the beginning, the birth of the whole hip hop thing, and it didn't change over so many different times. You know what I mean? Just keep elevating. How do you feel about the work or the hip hop game now?
I really don't have any comment because I'm the old school. I'm stuck in the 70s, 80s,
Right,
and
right,
90s.
right.
I mean, a lot of these guys, the words I can't understand, they mumble rappers.
Right.
I mean, if I had to be A&R now, I'd probably lose my job because a lot of things, like we came
Right.
up, like we made music,
Yep.
we made beats, we sampled,
Right,
we
right.
use real music,
Yeah,
and
right.
a lot of
Lose
stuff
your
I
job.
hear, I just don't hear it.
Right.
Lose your
A lot of
job or lose your
guys,
mind.
But
That's
you
right.
know, I say the crazy thing, and shout out to all the hip hop from 2000 on. These guys are millionaires. They're becoming millionaires in
Yeah.
the weekend.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
we came up making what I say 1,500.
That's
They're making
right.
150,000 a show.
Right.
So I'm making
Exactly.
300.
Right.
In a weekend, they're a
Exactly.
millionaire.
Right.
You
But
know,
when you think of we would play where we could play small clubs and small venues where you maybe got 75 to 100, 150 people.
Mhm.
These people out there playing stadiums where you're talking
Stadiums.
about 5
Right,
to 10,000
right.
people.
You know, the only thing I wish that the new hip hop would do was give back to the old hip hop.
Oh,
Get back to the
absolutely.
founders.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Give it up for that.
Feel
Yes,
you.
yes.
Absolutely.
Look out for that guy who
Right.
That's
who
true.
you grew up listening to,
That's
Right.
true.
who helped you. You
That's
know, he
true.
might need health insurance. He may
That's
need
true.
help. You know, donate some money to the
Right.
museum.
Yeah.
Donate
Right.
some
Yes,
money.
Exactly.
yes.
Create
Exactly.
some kind of
Yes.
because you making millions of
Right.
dollars.
Absolutely.
You know, give back to.
Absolutely.
Right.
Give back
It's
to
just
that.
like going to college. Give back.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
People help you get your
Exactly.
degree.
Exactly.
That's
Because
right.
if it wasn't for those pioneers in the
Yes.
game,
Yeah.
It
Where
would've
would
been-
you be?
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Where would
Exactly.
you be?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
pioneers. That's what we always say. We are that forgotten,
That's right.
that forgotten era
Yeah.
of hip hop.
That's right.
Just because the youngest didn't know.
Right.
But we put how you gonna grow a tree if you don't plant the seed?
That's right.
Somebody had to plant the seed
That's
to grow
correct.
that tree that we call hip hop culture.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
We had to.
Right.
So
right.
you have to plant a seed first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to give it up for that.
Yeah.
You know, because
definitely.
we put on a lot of work. You mentioned turntable speakers, amps. You tell me what MC or DJ out here is going to be. They walk in with a laptop and happy, just
I mean,
happy.
how about it back in the day? You had to carry
You had-
10, 20 thick crates of
Yes.
records.
As Red Boy,
yes,
we had to go
yes,
through
yes.
at the end of a night.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
would look at
Oh,
that
yeah.
equipment and say, I ain't moving you tonight. That's crazy. I'm
Imagine
tired.
Torn, when I was with Flash, we had to have two guys just to carry the records. It was
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
got
With
10,
hip,
10
Yeah.
crates of records.
10,
Wow.
8 to 10 crates.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
these new people have no idea
No
about
idea.
that. They have
They
no
don't know.
idea.
The struggle, the back
struggles, the back
Absolutely, yeah.
right? And you tired.
Yeah.
You know, you just put on a heavy show, you did crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and now you got to empty this van. What do you know about that?
Right.
So give back.
Get back.
Pay homage to the person that broke their back so you're able to do what you're doing right now.
All right. Well. I think one thing is we got to find a connection where the newer artists would take time and learn from the pioneers or the other, because I think it's a disconnection there.
There
You know what I mean, you go to other places
Uh-huh.
and they respect the game, they respect
That's right.
everything from the
Right.
past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even with rock artists, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the rock artists never have to make another record again, and they
No.
can still sell out
Yeah.
Right.
stadiums. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
Because they forever kept
Absolutely.
that fresh in their hearts and their minds.
hearts.
Right.
I think for us, we don't keep it like that, and especially these young kids,
right.
they only know about
Right.
certain artists. You know
Sure.
what I mean? They don't go back that far enough, or they're not even
right.
willing to learn about it. You know what I mean?
And
So
you
we got to
get-
find some way to bridge
Bridge
that
that,
gap.
yeah.
Right,
we
bridge
do.
that gap. You hear about 50 years of hip hop.
Right.
Who would have ever thought of that?
Right.
Now you ask yourself that. You've been in the game, you follow around, you meet all these people. Think about 50 years.
That's right.
They didn't think we was gonna make it 50 minutes.
That's right.
They didn't
The
want
way
us to.
they didn't
Right,
want us to.
right.
What we were doing, they didn't want us to go past 50 minutes.
No.
And we made it 50 years.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's something to say.
Yeah,
It really is.
exactly,
It really
exactly.
is.
Wow. So look, man, Mark, I just gotta thank you again
Absolutely.
for coming tonight and sharing your book.
Yes.
The show must
Man,
Yes.
yeah. So please let us know how somebody can purchase
Purchase
this.
the
You
book.
can buy the book on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or you could go to my website, markmoneygreen.com.
All right,
And
all
you can
right.
get it there.
Please, please, man. There's so many great stories in here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Please, we need to educate our youth.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean, about the whole music game, hip hop, R&B, the whole nine.
Yeah.
Yes. And and also you can find me on Facebook on the Celebrity Talent Agency.
Right.
My Instagram is Celebrity Talent Agency Inc.
Right.
And, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
That's
it.
what's up, yo. So we want to thank Mark Green for hanging
Absolutely.
out with us today.
Absolutely. Money.
I appreciate you.
Money.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah,
Thank you, bro.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as always, you know, we say like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Continue to watch The Lost Underground because we're going to keep bringing y'all the truth.
And don't forget, those of y'all that live in the nearby areas, myself, the Mellow One, the Mellow LC, I am at the Majestic Lodge each and every Saturday night, you know, doing my little thing, doing my little 1-2s, you know, keeping the party going,
Yes,
grown and
yes.
sexy. So if you're not doing anything, come on down and hang out with me. That's Majestic Lodge, 351 First Street here in Hackensack. Me on the 1s and 2s, the Mellow One. Y'all come out and hang out with me.
All right. And also one last little commercial. Got some new music coming out soon in January that's supporting the Lost Underground. We got a soundtrack coming, you know, to back
Absolutely.
this. So we got a couple singles coming out real soon in January. Y'all listen out for that, man.
Yes.
You know, for like I said, for the Lost Underground. All right. So as always, peace, love, and hip hop, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
All right.